Welcome back to another transformative episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Phil Better, the podcast mogul. And today we're going to be bringing you a guest who's a trailblazer in the marketing and sales, blending her expertise with a heartfelt message to help women entrepreneurs embrace their fear of becoming visible. With an illustrious career spanning over 3 decades in journalism, communication, and digital marketing, including roles at prestigious organizations like Radio France Internationale, Le Figaro, and CBC Radio Canada. She now is making waves as the founder of Social Media Love. She's not only an online visibility strategist, she's also a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, podcast host, and paid media expert. Her unique approach combines her social media prowess with trauma-informed coaching to empower women to shine online, transforming their mindset and identity and visible strategies from the inside out. Her groundbreaking Visible method, that's VISIBLE method, helps women face fears of rejection, heal old trauma, and confidently share their stories. One post, one video, one belief at a time. Whether she's amplifying voices, creating empowering content, or guiding women entrepreneurs to step into their full power, her work is a game changer. Ladies and gentlemen, podcast listeners, it is my honor to introduce the visionary, the powerhouse, the one, the only, Angélique Binet. Angélique, thank you so much for being here.
Wow, thank you, Phil. I love your name, by the way.
You are very welcome, and thank you. I kind of do love it as well. It's my parents did bless me with a great name, so I feel blessed there. But this is not about my name. This is about how amazing you, Angélique, with what you do for women, and also what you've done in your illustrious career spanning 3 decades. That's incredible, working for some amazing organizations and very prestigious ones as well. I'm gonna ask the big question because it's the only question to ask to start this episode off is why did you break the shackles of like a typical, maybe not a typical 9 to 5, because you were working in that media world, so it's not typical 9 to 5, but it's not traditional 9 to 5, but it is a 9 to 5 role because you're not really entrepreneurial. You're working for someone, but in an entrepreneurial capacity. But you went full entrepreneur. Why did you leave the proto-entrepreneur world, if you will, of media to go full entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I guess I always go back to, when we have our dreams. You were talking earlier about your nephew who was 6. I think I was 10 when I had a big dream. I went to a concert, for a kids singer in Paris. That was I'm from the farm in France. That's where I was born. And then I think it was the very first ever concert of my life at 10, going to Paris. It was a huge, concert place. And what I could see was I was seeing the singer. There was a famous singer. But what I was looking at is those people. And at the time, it was mostly guys holding those huge cameras. And at the time, they had like the cords, like, I don't know, 3 kilometers of cords.
Or at least minimum 3 kilometers.
And then it was huge. And I remember sitting in the room and spending my time like, wow, this is for me, but that was kind of like the best thing you could do in your life is to be a camera person. And I would have never guessed that I would become that camera person. And so that's when everything started for me around visibility. So if you fast forward, I crossed the pond from France to Canada and I become a TV reporter for CBC. And I was actually the first video journalist in Atlantic Canada, the first one who was filming, interviewing, editing, finding the stories, wrapping up the stories, publishing the stories. And that's I still believe very strongly that day in Paris at the concert at 10 years old, that shaped who I became as a TV reporter and the power of holding a camera and a mic and going all over the place, interviewing people. And then after that, life happens. I fell in love with a Canadian, and he was a
SK
journalist.
Canadians.
And he was a journalist too. And then just, I'm going to make it short, but I had to kind of resign from the TV role that I had because we had a little boy. And as you said, it's not a 9 to 5 when you are a reporter.
No, it's not that traditional 9 to 5.
Yes. um and then I'm like, I was missing, I went to other position. I went on the other side of the camera. I was like a PR person, communication person in the political world, but I was missing, the power of asking questions to people. So I think this is when I uncovered that more than that, I was missing not sharing my voice. I was always, taking care of others' voice, the politicians, the people I was interviewing. When you do a news story, you're supposed to bring, the full scope of the story. And I wanted to say what I wanted to say. And that's how I think I shifted to become an entrepreneur. It didn't came clearly like this, but that's what happened. And I fell in a bucket of called the social media world. That was 12 years ago, where I realized that you don't need a big camera anymore. You can just have a Facebook channel and have your own TV or YouTube channel. And then that's how I started my online visibility journey for myself, but also for the women now entrepreneurs that I guide through the online world. You are your own broadcaster.
You're someone after my own heart, because I have that same idea that when every person can be their own little media empire, because we have the tools. We have YouTube, so we have the broadcasting capabilities. We have podcasts, so we can be our own radio channel, our own station. And I love that we've connected, so we can share that kind of like that little thing, because it's true. Every business needs to have their little media empire inside of it, and every person, if they're not a full business, need to have their little entrepreneurial media empire to grow.
Yeah, and the only thing you need is a connection. I always say
Mhm.
that, a phone, and a lot of courage.
Loads of courage, loads of courage, or just being very, very naive about how much work it takes to become your own little media empire. When you started transitioning from, going from the more, 9 to 5 with your child, and then coming into the entrepreneurial world, because going into the entrepreneurial world isn't a 9 to 5 either, because it can be 12 to 12,
Yes, or
8
24.
18-hour days, 24-hour days sometimes, because problems or fires are everywhere. When you did that transfer over from going, okay, I'm going in. Did you start it as a side hustle, or did you clear cut go, okay, one day you just cut and
No,
went?
and I'm still not fully cut because
Oh.
my journey is a little. So I started a first business in the food industry because
Mhm.
my at the time I had a lot of health issues with food allergies, and I was missing my French food from France. So I started to run bistros at my place, and then do farmers market, making like bistro style sandwiches with no gluten, no nuts, no dairy. I was really good, I promise you.
I believe you. I'm just like, this is, I did not expect this coming from you. So this is why, like, the look of surprise is not like, oh my god, gluten. I don't mind that, because if I'm a foodie, I love food. Like, just put food in front of me, I'll try it. So like the lack of gluten and all that, I can just put some hot sauce on it and it's fine. But I didn't expect you to be a chef as well.
Well, yeah, people call me a chef. I was not officially a chef, but I was making like dinners and meals at people's house or at my place, and it was always festive and all the things. But that was my side hustle. And then at some point, I lost that job twice, actually, in a row. My position was cut. And I realized that, nobody has the right to cut the water for you. Like, that was a kicker for me, that, going from a side hustle to building a thing that will never stop again to provide money and what I need to grow and eat and all the things. So this is when I decided, okay, I have this side hustle, and I wanted to do kind of I think at the time it was a loan at the CBDC organization around where I live in New Brunswick here. And then when I was filling up the form, it was saying, what is it was like a business plan. What is your marketing strategy? And at the time, I had no idea about marketing. And I was like, oh my God, another thing to learn. Like my clients say all the time, another thing to learn. And that very same day, there is a past colleague of mine who said, Angélique, there is a job for you that is so you. I'm like, what is it? She said, so it's social media expert for a large organization. I'm like, I don't know. I don't even have a Facebook profile at the time, right? I'm like, she said, yes, but you have everything else. It's transferable. And at the time, I was learning from, I don't know if you know Brandon Burchard.
I've
He
heard
was
of
my,
Brandon.
yeah, my coach at the time. And it was about the art of influence and how to influence others. So I went to the interview and I applied what I was learning, and I got the job at the social media expert, which I wasn't, but I showed them that I would become that in no time. So not only I did, but I fell in love with the power of social media, and I became an advertiser, digital advertiser, and I'm still 3 days a week serving. They're my employer, but I see them as my clients because everything I do for them is what I do for my solopreneurs, which is another story. When you're a big organization with millions of dollars versus, a solopreneur who's trying to build a brand online. So I still have that aspect, which keeps me very up to date to anything, advertising, which I love. It's so fun when you have money to spend in advertising.
Wait. When it's not your money to spend.
Well, if it is, that means you're at a stage of your business that you can do this without
Yeah.
wasting your money. Like that's the mistake I see a lot, like running ads when your system is not built in a way that is meant to work, then you amplify your problem with ads. So that's why I'm always say, like, just run ads when you're ready for it. But that's another story. But that's still part of my life right now. So I'm a full-time entrepreneur and with a side hustle job.
I, I love it. No, because it
I've never said that before. That's
I love
funny.
I think it's great because if you're giving hope to other entrepreneurs that are somewhat fearful of embracing the full risk of being an entrepreneur. You're like, hey, you can have a 9 to 5, slowly build up your solopreneur building until it comes to a point where it's your full business, and the 9 to 5, like you're working 3 days a week, 2 days a week, one day a week, and then you're like, okay, well, I can't work any more days a week. Here, hire me as your I'll work as a client. You're my now client. That's why I can work 5 days a week for you and do all the work you need for me. I think that's genius.
Yeah, because I know that there are a lot of stories about people who are burnt out by their job, and so they're trying to build a business to get out of something and escape. This is not my case, but that's a so and it works so well. It's the same. It's hand in hand. I'm not saying that I'm gonna be in that position all the time because my business is growing and growing. I
Yeah.
will have to make choices as you mentioned, but yeah, it's possible, and it's that's one thing I've learned with entrepreneurship. You don't have to figure it out right from the get-go. Like you're going to learn how to surf with the wave.
It's school for people. It's the school that you choose to be, because if you're passionate about anything and you want to turn it into a business, you have to go through it. You have to learn by doing it, getting knocked down, getting back up, and looking at each, okay, how do I make sure that this doesn't happen again? And you've been lucky because with your role at the company you work for, you get to learn with a safety net in essence, because you get to learn from a brand that's already relatively big, and
Mhm.
you're learning to spend the money that they have f- efficiently, so that then you can take it to your clients and help them do it so that
Yeah.
they end up being at the same level. That's amazing. I love what you're doing.
Yeah. Actually, it kind of went reverse. I'm the one who brought advertising to the team and we grew so big. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so because I always, I know you're very interested in the learning aspect when you become an entrepreneur, but when I started to get interested in social media and the digital world, I've learned so much, and I still do. Like I have to stop myself because I take courses after courses. So it's like I'm unstoppable that way.
Yeah,
Yes.
you just have so much knowledge going. This is
Yeah.
why I love podcasting, because it gives me access to talk with amazing entrepreneurs like yourself. And like, if you say something that I want to learn more about, I know I have an expert that I can follow and figure out more stuff from them. Because I've talked to you, I can I get that trust from you. And if I'm going down paid advertising, I'm following you because you seem to know everything there is
Well,
about
everything
it.
it changes every day. Remember,
Of course.
social media. So yeah, so that's part of the nature of our world, of our online world. You have to keep up, but at the same time, there are some basics. It's always the same. Marketing is marketing. Trust is the factor, number one factor in everything, right? That's why podcasting is amazing because by hearing people, their voice, and how they have conversation, it really builds that trust. I believe that very strongly.
Speaking of podcasting, how let's talk about your podcast for a bit.
Yeah.
How long have you had your podcast, and what made you decide to launch your podcast?
So I started it in 2020. I was missing interviewing people, like from my TV reporter era. So I said, I'm just going to do my own show. So I started, so it's called the Social Media Love Podcast, but the series that I had been running for many years called the real story behind our business. So I was bringing, women entrepreneur to share how they started, all as you said, like the go down, go up, rise up, fall again, and start again, and all that message around, like how I feel like entrepreneurship is really the personal growth on steroid, right? If you want to learn who you are from inside out, become an
Oh
entrepreneur.
yeah, all your flaws will come laid bared, and you're going to be like, okay, I have to fix this, I got to fix that, I got to fix this, let's do this, I have to figure out that. So much fun.
So that was the first kind of launch of my podcast. And then when I launched my book in last May, I started a series called Stepping into the Light. So this is more having guests and interviewing them on how did they shift from, I don't want to talk to anyone, I don't want to show my face, I don't want to talk to the Facebook of this world, to, yeah, I want to do it. So this is a journey. What happened? What has changed? What are the shifts, and where it's coming from, and what was the impact in the business? So that's where we are at with stepping into the light.
I love that. With your podcast, what has been one of the benefits that you have seen being able to either do your solo episodes or do the interviews? Like, what has been a benefit that you've seen that you were unaware of?
Sometimes I have people who tell me, "Oh my God, I just hire your guests," because they were exactly the person that they were looking for. So that those type of feedback, I'm like, wow. Or someone's going to be like hiring me because they hear my podcast. So there is the trust factor, or what I use it for a lot is to, if someone wants to really kind of the Netflix effects and they want to learn more about how I speak, what I stand for or against, I will send them kind of the podcast, and that's kind of my social proof around what are my values, my core values, and how I stand in the world of marketing. So I use that more as a get to know me tool.
Oh, I love that. That's a very genius idea. I know a different way of looking at a podcast to help grow your business. With your podcast, what is one of the main goals you have with it? And then we'll get back to your entrepreneurial journey, because I'm a podcast. I have to ask at least a couple podcast.
Yes, yeah. So for me, I love the podcast because I take the time to share my ideas or have conversation around ideas with others. And taking the time to do that, I think, is a luxury that we don't allow ourselves. So it's like, I write a lot of posts. Uh, I love voices. The voice is powerful. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So for me, it's my favorite way of getting into someone's ear. And I use it mostly for awareness so that people, when they want to really hear me more, this is the best way to get at me.
I love that. Okay, going back to the entrepreneurial world, because it's
Yes.
somewhat, I'm going to try and do a segue here. It's because it's a different identity of who you are, along with the entrepreneurial, the daughter, the mother, the son, sorry, the son, wife. No, you have a son and you have a husband. You are the wife and mother. With all these shifting identities that you have to juggle, how does your friends and family handle you having multiple identities and not only seeing you as this one role that they normally do see you in life?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I get a lot of, okay, what's next, Angelique? What are you come up with next? They're always like, I think I have this figure in the family that I am the one who's like the crazy dreamer that does really go after her dreams. And I get a lot of support with that. The other side of the thing is, I work a lot. Like, no doubt, I work a lot. So, where is Angelique? She's in her office, right? She works a lot. So there is always, I had to learn to let go of the guilt and shame, kind of shame, because I really believe, and I find even more when you're an entrepreneur, there are phases where you're in full creation mode and it's not a 9 to 5. It's like, I am in it, it's a vortex, I'm going, boom, it's done. And then after that, I'm going to play hard. But so I've learned to really respect those cycles of creation that are how I work. And maybe it's hormonal, I don't know. But
I don't think it's hormonal, but yes.
and I think it's old belief that if you don't spend all your time with your kids, then you're a bad mom, right? I had to come at peace with those old beliefs because I have my own way to be a mom. And the proof of this right now is I see my son, how he is so entrepreneurial. And I never told him to be an entrepreneur, but like, guess where he got that from? And
I
he's
wonder.
so, yeah, he's so independent at 19. Like, he's like, and I'm like, wow. So that's what happened. And that was the intangible, years of putting in place my dream, giving him permission to go after his dream. And yeah, I was working a lot. We were going, I love coffee shops, right? So I would take him at 5 years old. We would go to a coffee shop. I would have my laptop. He would have his Lego. And then we would spend like 5 hours there. And I was creating the thing and he was playing. We would have hot chocolate. I have amazing memories of that. But I was a working mom. Like, my passion was filling me. And I don't want to say that I sacrifice any of it, because I think you can do everything you want. The thing is, how do you judge yourself when you do it is where this is where, when you look back at your life, you regret it or you are so proud of it.
Oh, I
Does
love
that
it.
make sense?
It does. It does. You have to, there is sacrifices to be made, but those sacrifices necessarily won't be the sacrifices you think they will. Because, like you said, your son seeing you working when he was 5 years old on a computer made him entrepreneurial now at 19 and willing to take the risk because he saw that, hey, mom took the risk and look where she's now. She's happy, she's doing the things she loves, and that's what I want in my life. If I had, I think I would be just as entrepreneurial if I saw my mother doing that at 5 years old. Unfortunately, she had 3 kids to deal with, so it was a little more difficult to wrangle 3 kids at a coffee shop. So she did her best. Love her, but I don't think she could have handled being an entrepreneur with 3 kids.
It's an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's an enterprise in itself to have 3 kids.
Yeah, so she was an entrepreneur in a different way, and she did great at her job, at her business. She did. Um, moving with that, I want to know, because you have so many different identities and you've done so many things, and you mentioned before that you have this desire and unyielding desire to learn. What else do you do to invest in yourself to become a better version of yourself?
Yeah. So right now, I'm teaching myself that in the doing less, you get more. And so it's a new iteration of me because it's so counterintuitive. I was always the one working, working, working. So that's what I've been doing in the last 4 years to really be more spacious. In, for example, if I do a big thing in my business, rather than just starting the next big thing, to really take time to bathe in what just happened. So that's really game changer for me, like to stop collecting the medals, and really come from another perspective, to really be in the moment of, I was dreaming of making this happen to help those women do this, and then I put that in place, they came and we did it, and look at where they are, rather than just right away say, okay, what can I do next? I intentionally stop in it, and I listened to my body way more because I had a lot of health scares. And it's because when we are helping others as coaches, consultant, or even podcasters, we are helping others, we're giving our energy. And it is an actual thing, it's very intangible. When you give of yourself every day, you need to nurture yourself to rejuvenate that energy, that gonna be kind of received as lotion on a dry skin on the other side of the mic or of the video or the workshop, whatever.
I love that. I'm enjoying this episode, and I will be thoroughly looking forward to rereading the transcript so that I can get all the gold that you've dropped down, Angelique. I do want to touch on your visible method because it is interesting, and I want the audience to take something away from it. So I'm wondering, because it's designed to help women embrace their fear of being seen, what's the first step women entrepreneurs should take to reframe their fear of visibility into a tool for empowerment?
Yes, I love this question. Something that is always the first thing that I had to learn for myself is actually, when you fear of being seen or becoming visible, how do you feel? How does that feel, that fear? And really feel those feelings and really feel those emotions, because they are the emotions that are keeping you from exactly where you want to go. And so we've never been told how to feel our feelings, especially as girls. If you are crying too much, why is she still always crying, or she's too loud, and all the things. So we repress and suppress and oppress a lot of emotions. And that's what I find with the women I work with. They're between 35 and 65. A lot of oppressed emotion from decades of, I need to be tough, I am superwoman, I can do it all, I don't need your help, look at me, I can do this. So when it's time to become visible, there is, like, when you're visible, they see you, there is no hiding. It's either you are seen or you are not. And then this is where it's key for the person who wants to become visible. You got to process all those fears, like literally in your body, because emotions are the language of your body, your thoughts are the language of your mind, and they work together. So as soon as you think that you're not enough to show up, that you don't belong to the game of digital media because you're not ticky enough, and that people won't understand what you mean, then you're going to start to feel like, that you're going to be rejected, abandoned, judging is a big thing. So the first step is, what does it mean to feel your emotions? Is literally sit on your chair and feel it. How does it feel inside of you? If you close your eyes, feel it all without judging it. And then that's kind of like a first cleanup before you take your next move. of doing a Facebook Live or whatever you want to do, write the blog or post the post. Right now, a lot of the women I work with, they're crying when they write their first post. They've been resisting. And then because we do the work of feeling how we feel our fears, they let go so much that your fears, like your mission with your business, is way bigger than your fear. And then, so there is a lot of crying, and crying is releasing your emotion. So everybody knows it's not, doesn't mean anything else. Crying is releasing your emotions so that you can move on to do the things that you say you want to do. So that's my first step. Feeling your feelings all the way without judging them for how long you need to feel them. And that's what I had to learn 5 years ago. That was game changer.
That is game changer. I know that would be feeling, and the fact that you kind of uh, 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 um, reinforce that crying doesn't mean anything other than just releasing and feeling your feelings. Because I know there's some men out there going, "Oh, men don't cry because that relates to being sad, and men aren't sad." Brr. When it's men has the whole range of emotions, and crying, like you said, can be happy because you can cry when you're happy, and you can cry when you're sad, and you can cry when you're laughing. So it's a way of showing emotion, and it just feeling the feelings. We're coming near to the end of the episode, which I hate because Angelique, we're having a great time. I'm thoroughly enjoying my time. I don't know about you.
Me too, I love
Good.
it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I thank you for coming on the show. But we're going to go to the last question, and it's the most selfish question I could ask. I have your 10-year-old self here, Angelique. She's amazing. She's awesome. What is a piece of advice you would love to be able to hand back to your 10-year-old self to help them in life?
The sky is the limit, and it's true. It's not just a saying. And you belong to whatever you want to belong. There is no rules.
I love it. Simple, straight to the point, Angelique. I love it. I'm going to jump off stage here. Please let my audience know where they can find you, how they can connect with you if they're interested in the visible method. The floor is yours.
All right. So the best way is to go in the show notes, and I gave Phil the links to the TEDx talk that I did recently, as well as the books that I published and the podcast. So I'm always, a big fan of inviting people who discover me, like to see if they're gonna like me. Like, does that speak to you when I speak? And so the best way is to go on YouTube, watch a TEDx, read the book, and then reach out to me because I love talking. I love to have a chat with you. So that's kind of how we can get introduced to each other. Grab the book, grab the TEDx, and join the podcast.
I love it. Straight to the point. And of course, she's an expert podcaster because she told you to go check the show notes. That's how she's one of the best. Angelique, I want to thank you so much for being here. You were an exceptional guest and you provided so much value. Thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the time and space to share this. So much, Phil.
You're very welcome. To my audience, check out those show notes, like Angelique said, all the way to find the TEDx, the podcast, and the books that she has for you guys. Check out those show notes. Remember to subscribe to the podcasts. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.